Hello, everyone. Welcome again to the BATTASS Podcast, the Batman the Animated Series show podcast, where we talk about Batman the Animated Series. My name's Clay McCormick, and with me, as always, is Sean Murphy. How you doing, Sean?
Good, man. I'm excited. I really liked one of these episodes.
I agree. I also really liked one of these episodes. And as always, we're talking about 2 episodes of Batman the Animated Series, and let's jump right into it. We're doing the Worrymen and Sideshow, which are the Worrymen is the final episode of the first 65 episode, quote-unquote, first season of Batman the Animated Series, and Sideshow is the first episode of, quote-unquote, season 2. So we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back with the Worrymen. The Worrymen, written by Paul Dini, directed by Frank Power, and in this one, wealthy socialite Veronica Vreeland returns from Central America, bringing tiny handmade dolls for all her friends. According to native legend, once placed under a pillow, the dolls do the sleeper's worrying for them. Unknown to Veronica or her guests, each of the dolls was made by the Mad Hatter and contains a tiny microchip which plants hypnotic suggestions inside the sleeper's brains. And in this case, it causes them to take a bunch of cash out and leave it for some culturally inappropriate villains to steal.
You noticed that too, huh?
Yeah, it's actually funny because I'm watching, my first thing as I'm watching this was, it felt a lot like a Fleischer Superman cartoon, because they do like a lot of that shit in those old cartoons. And so, right. You'd have Superman in like the quote unquote jungle, fighting a lot of questionable elements of the quote unquote jungle. Right. But what was kind of interesting is if you want to be, what's the word I'm looking for? If you want to be kinder to what they end up doing in this episode, it's kind of funny that the Mad Hatter is essentially exploiting all of these rich people who are going on, exotic vacations. Yeah. But it takes a long time to get to that reveal. So for like the first 3/4 of it, it just feels like maybe a villain setup that is what's the word I'm looking for? Old-fashioned at best.
Yeah. So I couldn't. Was it clear if she went to the jungle or the rainforest? Mm-hmm. Was it the African rainforest or the South American?
South
rainforest?
America.
Okay. So that means the guys that Mad Hatter was using were all Latino, African American. Sorry,
one guy was.
Okay.
Only
so the
one
shaman
of them was. Yes.
The other guys were
just
what?
Just guys off the street from Gotham.
Okay, I couldn't tell because I was watching and I'm thinking, is this racist that he's hijacking these people and putting them into like Tarzan outfits and making them do his bidding?
Oh, I mean, it's not great, but
right. And then you have they added in this African American character who was Bruce's secretary, and she's the one that like got him $20 million and put it in a briefcase, mm-hmm. and she has some funny one-liners in there, and I felt like maybe she was added to the script to make sure, like, see, we're not really racist.
Yeah.
There's other kinds of people in Gotham too.
Yeah. It was it's an interesting choice because like I don't think like I said, once you get to see how this is playing out, I don't think it's racist on the part of I don't think they're not using South American culture as a full stop bad guy, because mm-hmm. it's all a smokescreen by the Mad Hatter. So if anything, right. They're writing the Mad Hatter as racist, and arguably right. They're also writing the rich people as racist.
Right.
But it kind of takes a while to get there. So yeah, for the first half of it, I'm going like, yeah, this feels a little bit old fashioned.
Yeah, like they have the jungle music when the guy shows up, and maybe that's why I was squirming. Because I'm like, oh man, I hope this corrects itself. And at the end, when you realize the shaman has been hijacked, and he's kind enough. Well, first of all, he's the one that caught the Mad Hatter and made sure he got arrested and not beaten the shit out of by the other two guys. They basically saved the day while Batman had disappeared, he was under the guillotine,
right?
Which I'm sure we'll get to in a bit.
Yeah.
But he also decided not to press charges. He just wanted to go back to where he's from and continue to sell his wares. So I thought, like, that's a very noble. That's kind of like the noble Indian type of trope, I guess.
Yeah.
A man of peace or whatever.
Yeah, I think you could argue that it is subversively making fun of these kind of racist tropes, because you do have Veronica Vreeland, who is this freewheeling rich socialite who went down to South America and bought these, authentic Worrymen from this English white guy who was making them off the corner of the road, and then she's throwing this lavish party that, if you threw this in college, you'd probably get expelled today. And the Mad Hatter is using these outdated tropes as a cover for what he's doing and all this kind of stuff. Is it as clear and as biting as one you would hope if they were doing that kind of thing? No. But I don't know. I don't think you could say that's not there. I don't think it's not. I don't think this is a racist episode. Let's put it that way.
No, I don't either. I think if you really wanted to attack it, I think you'd have to really be reading into some stuff that's not there.
Yeah.
I think that it's mostly making fun of ignorant rich white
exactly.
people.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I thought the shaman looked really great. He was actually one of my candidates for like the thing that I would want to draw from this episode. Yeah, because I think the leopard skin or jaguar skin and the I don't get to draw a lot of jungle stuff, so I thought he was pretty cool looking. But yeah, I think what you said describes why I was slightly squirming, and I wasn't sure. My liberal take, I'm like, all right, how am I supposed to feel about this? Is this really problematic? And it's funny, I don't really know why I don't love this episode, because even when you described the pitch to me, I thought, oh, that sounds cool. You don't get to do a lot of South American stories that work in other cultures and bring it into Gotham. And I like the rich socialite thing. LeVar Burton is in it. And I think Paul Dini wrote a good script. I don't know why this has never stood out as a good episode to me.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of ultimately, it's not really it's not breaking any new ground story-wise, it's a Mad Hatter story with some extra flair thrown onto the end of it,
It's villain of the week. He's just a one-dimensional villain. Honestly, his origin story had more depth than this.
Right.
This is sort of like an Adam West style Batman again.
Yeah.
But with a TAS spin.
The most interesting thing they do with him is that he's actually, at least he claims he's doing this because he's retiring. He's like, I'm not going to be a villain anymore. I just want a bunch of money so I can cash out.
I need to buy an island, and I'm so upset by how expensive islands
are. Right, exactly. It's great. It's great villain logic where he's like, you don't understand. I'm trying to do the right thing here.
Yeah.
And even with that South American shaman villain guy, even Batman's response when he sees him is not. His response is, there's some villain who's using South American iconography as his thing. Like Batman they don't have him jump to the conclusion that this is some guy this is a character from South America and this is like just what he looks like. It's like, no, it's some asshole using South American stuff as his villain thing.
Right. Yeah. What did you think of LeVar Burton's role in it?
It was surprisingly small. He only had a couple lines. I think I'm surprised they didn't give him more to do. This is one where Batman only goes to, I think, Veronica once he figures out what's going on. I was surprised he doesn't go and talk to LeVar Burton's character. Yeah. Because that seems like, you got a guest star, and this guy actually went to jail because, which, if you want to talk about...
they never cleaned that up,
if you want to talk about potential racism baked into this episode, the black guy goes to jail while all the other white people just go scot-free, apparently. But yeah, he never talks to him about what happened or what was going through his mind or anything. You know, I'm surprised they didn't do anything else with him.
Right. It's funny, when I saw this as a kid, it never struck me that LeVar Burton's character was black, because as a kid, I didn't think LeVar Burton's voice sounded black. Now, I was a dumb, ignorant white kid in white New Hampshire, and I didn't know any black people, but
Sure.
I just assumed, now looking at it again, and of course now I'm a huge TNG fan, and I like LeVar Burton, of course. I think it's great, but at the same time, like, it does point out to me like how he has a very unique voice.
He does, yeah. If you know his voice, you pick it out immediately.
100%, yeah.
But yeah, if I didn't, well, I guess it's obviously if you know a voice, you're going to pick it out. But if you don't know it, you're not. But I know what you're saying. Like, he doesn't have. It's not particularly memorable unless you know the person and the actor. Yeah.
Yeah. He has a sort of a more soprano-ish voice, slightly higher pitched. Sure, I think he's a singer and trained.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So something like that. Yeah, I think he contributed to that album that Brent Spiner put out called Old Yellow Eyes.
What?
So, did you know this?
No, we're gonna click the tracks over to the Penske file here for a second. What are you talking about?
Brent Spiner on TNG put together. He realized there's a lot of performers and singers in the set and the crew. Mm-hmm. So he and Worf and Picard and I think LeVar Burton, Geordi, sang like in the style of Old Blue Eyes.
Sure.
But he called it Old Yellow Eyes because Data has yellow eyes. And there's an album out there, I think you can just find it on YouTube, where the four of them, and there might be some more of the cast in there as well, but they sing some songs.
I'm going to look for that, and I'm going to play a clip of it right here.
To tell a lie.
Be sure it's true when you say, I love you, darling. Because you know it's a terrible sin to tell a lie. So many hearts have been broken. And all because these words were spoken.
I love you, yes I do. I love you.
Hopefully I found it, and hopefully that was really interesting.
I thought I mentioned this on the Star Trek podcast.
Maybe you did. I think the most interesting part of I think the most fun in this episode is when Batman finally confronts the Mad Hatter at the. I do love that he essentially goes to what's the name of the place? I wrote it down. The Great Eastern Costume Company, where the Mad Hatter is hanging out.
Yeah, which is where the Outfitter.
Yes,
this is totally an episode for the Outfitter.
Yeah, the brand manager. Yeah.
Brand manager.
That's definitely his warehouse. When he
he should be all over that. The minute that warehouse went under, I mean, obviously, anytime any colorful storage facility of any kind gets abandoned, Batman should just put locks on all the doors.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just going to attract a villain.
yeah. That's probably. I won't get into my plans for the brand manager, but I'll tell you. Yeah,
Brandon Brandanowitz, the brand manager, found it first.
But yeah, I thought that was funny. That it's an interesting leap in logic, I think. But you only have so much time, and it's a kids show where Alfred is like it's a piece of fake fur, which means it could only have come from this one abandoned costume company.
Oh man, and it's funny is like there's a Joker face Jack in the Box, and I'm like, the brand manager could have sold that to Joker.
Oh,
there's
yeah,
Harley Quinn. String puppet doll, I forget what you call those things. Marionette.
Oh, marionette, yep.
He probably built that for Joker or Harley to use one day. Like, there's a lot of investment. Like, what else would those props be used for?
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, he had that stuff in the works. It's like, the Joker orders this thing, and he never comes and picks it up. I don't know. Cost me a lot of money.
I had to make something. The Riddler shooting the gun. But the Riddler's never shot a gun. How am I supposed to work with this?
He doesn't even understand his own character. There's no puzzle built into this. It's just him with a gun.
Riddle me this, asshole. When are you gonna pick it up? When are you gonna pay me?
But that whole sequence I thought was a lot of fun. To jump right to the stuff that I would draw, I would want to draw that sequence because that's definitely the kind of thing where, let's say you're a fill-in artist on a Batman comic, right? And you're like, I can't wait to draw. I wonder what I'm going to get to do. And then you start reading the script and it's like, okay, South American shaman villain. Not exactly ticking the boxes of my dream job here. And then eventually you get to this thing at the end where you ultimately get to draw every single Batman villain except in like this kind of weird kooky form. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, you could totally sell those pages, maybe even as a set.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
I love the, if I had to draw something, it would be when Batman stops the guillotine by kicking his legs up and slamming it. Like, that is a good fucking move, man.
That was
gotta
really
time
cool.
That just right.
Yeah. I was legitimately interested how he was going to get out of that situation.
And he's holding it up there while the other guys are snapping out of it because Batman brought a garage door opener device.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, that whole sequence was really a lot of fun. They do the old standby. Batman fights a bunch of mannequins, and then he thinks that there's more mannequins, but it turns out to be the actual villains and stuff. That's fun. You get some good. It's not fire-lit Batman, but you get that sort of Dimetap colored lit Batman with the Harley Quinn sequence, which is kind of cool. Yeah, that sequence is really interesting. This is a very for a Mad Hatter episode. I feel like the Mad Hatter is kind of inconsequential to the story.
Yeah.
Aside from that little gimmick he's got there, there's not really a lot of Mad Hatter in it. Really, it's just the device, and that's kind of it. I mean, the fun parts are the South American stuff at the beginning and the mannequin and marionette factory stuff at the end, which are all just sort of like, the Mad Hatter is very peripheral with all that stuff.
Right.
Like it could have been the Joker. It could have been the Joker. It could have been the Riddler. I think there's a lot of villains who could have slotted in there.
Yeah. One thing I will say is I wish that Mad Hatter's plan was a little far-fetched. I know this is fucking Mad Hatter, but if he really wanted to hijack the brains of rich people, why doesn't he just hijack the brain of a master thief and then send him to rich people's houses to plant these devices under their pillows?
Sure.
It's just, then you don't get the South American stuff. Then you don't get the shaman. Then you don't get, I get why, but it just seemed like a very roundabout way and unrealistic. Veronica is going to hand these things out and people are going to throw them in the trash on the way out the door. That's how it would work.
Right. Yeah, Batman villains very rarely take the easiest route to whatever their goal is. It's usually a very twisty-turny way for a fairly simple goal.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, shit, what the hell was I going to say?
You can ask about ratings?
Yeah, I had something else I was going to talk about with this episode. I forgot. Oh, so this episode and the next one do two interesting things where the amount of money being talked about does not seem equal to what it's presented as on screen. And so Bruce Wayne in this episode has his assistant or secretary cash out $20 million in cash to put into a briefcase that is like a normal sized briefcase, like my dad owned briefcase. Right. What denomination of bill is in that where you can cover $20 million in like a 11 by 17, 11 or 12 by 20 suitcase?
Right. Well, is there such thing as a $1,000 bill? No.
I think so. Right, yeah.
Is there?
Is there? I think it's, if I'm looking it up, it says it's discontinued.
Okay. So Batman must have had a bunch of antique $1,000 bills.
Yeah. So apparently once upon a time, I'm reading this off the internet as we go here. Once upon a time, they actually used that phrase. There were $500, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, and $100,000 bills in circulation. So let's see. Hold on a second here. Let's do a little quick math at calculator.com.
$100,000 bill. I got to see what this looks like.
So if we did 20, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 20 million divided by 100,000. So if they were $100,000 bills, you'd only need 200 of them. I should have been able to do that in my head, but I'm an artist, which is why I went to art school.
Yeah, I knew you wouldn't need that much, but now I want to see who is on the $100,000 bill. Things that you never thought we'd be talking about in this podcast.
It is apparently Woodrow Wilson.
Oh, nice.
And apparently, unless this is real, Teddy Roosevelt was on the $10,000. I don't know. Who knows if these are fake or not?
Mine says it was Elvis. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. So.
But regardless.
Anyway, yeah.
I mean, if you cashed out $20 million in $100,000 bills, that's just impractical. I mean, you can't really take that to the store and buy groceries with it.
Yeah, and then and a shaman running around with that kind of cash. I mean, obviously.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can't just keep that in your shoe, you know. But
what would you rate this episode?
This is a tough one. Because like you're saying, it's not bad. It's not. There's nothing bad about it. It's probably skews towards the good end, but it's just kind of unremarkable. Mm-hmm. So I think I would probably just go a 3 on this one.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. And is what you would draw the South American villain guy?
Either him or I'd like to do the sequence where Batman is in a guillotine, and it stops, and he kicks up and stops it. I think that was really cool. Even as a kid, I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, I've never seen anything like that before. I'm surprised, maybe because it's not practical in real life. I don't know. That's why they just don't do that stuff.
Or if you miss, you're going to lose your.
Oh yeah, no. If you overshoot that or like do it too early, they're going to need like a couple bags to put you together when they take you out of there.
It's going to go one of 3 ways. Either you're going to stop it, or you're going to be too slow and lose your head, or you're going to cut the back of your thighs somehow.
Well, I mean, depending on the length of the blade, you're probably still going to die. I was going to say, like, if you kick your legs up over the part that's keeping your head down and the blade is short enough, theoretically, if it cut through your... No, that wouldn't work either. Yeah, you're still going to die. Anyway... That's going to do it, I think.
This has been Ways to Defeat a Guillotine with Clay McCormick.
Hey, after we finish these episodes for Batman, when we run out of episodes, maybe that's the next version of this podcast.
I wonder if there's a villain called Guillotine. There has to be. Oh, there's got to be. Right?
Yeah, there has to be.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it for the Worrymen. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back with the Sideshow. All right, we are back with Sideshow, written by Michael Reeves, teleplay by Michael Reeves and Bryn Stevens, directed by Boyd Kirkland. In this one, en route to an upstate prison, Killer Croc escapes and leads Batman on a dangerous chase through the wilderness. After throwing Batman temporarily off his trail, the reptile-man takes refuge with a group of retired circus freaks and convinces them to help him. When Batman arrives, Croc and the freaks band together to capture him. Note, loosely based on A Vow from the Grave by Denny O'Neil. This episode adapted the comic book story with the inclusion of a separate Killer Croc story. In the original story, I believe it was it was not Killer Croc. It was a villain named Kano Wiggins, who is a death row escapee.
Okay.
Yeah, and this, as I said, this was the first episode of season 2, and the official season 2. And to continue reading directly off of Wikipedia, I'll say, because of the success of the show is enjoying, while the 65 episodes of the first season were still airing, Fox Network executives ordered a second season of 20 more episodes. Season 2 featured Robin more prominently, and 9 out of the 20 episodes were given the on-screen title, The Adventures of Batman and Robin. We haven't made it to that point yet. After airing 5 of the 20 episodes in May 1994, the network reduced the series to airing only weekly on Saturday mornings. 10 more episodes were broadcast in this format in September, November 94 under the Adventures of Batman and Robin title. Once these 15 episodes had premiered, the final 5 were held back until September 95. The weekday slot was restored to include reruns of the entire series, with all previous episodes being shown under the new title for all remaining airings on Fox, as well as several VHS releases. The entirety of Season 2 was released on DVD as part of Batman the Animated Series Volume 3, alongside the final 9 episodes of Season 1.
So we both watched. I watched them on Fox 25 out of Boston.
Me too. Yep.
Yeah, and they had the whole afternoon there. I can't remember what this was lined up with, but like 3:30 or 4 o'clock p.m. It was like Fox 25. And I remember when I first saw this episode because I had watched every single one of them and I knew them all pretty well at that point. And I went over to my friend's house. His brother was watching Batman, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I love this series." And I'm like, "Wait, I've never seen this episode." And now it all makes sense because this was the first one that they released of Season 2.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
I don't remember this one very well. I guess I kind of think I knew it existed, but I didn't remember it as I was watching it. These last two I don't remember seeing. But this, and Saturday, talking about Fox 25 in Boston, Saturday was when I think watched most of these, and there was a period of time, I think we've probably mentioned this before, where as a young comic book fan, on Fox you had the Spider-Man cartoon, the X-Men cartoon, Batman the Animated Series, and the Tick, all in sort of rotation with each other, and it was amazing.
And they had a graphic that would play. It was like a 2-hour spot. They would play 4 different shows, but they were all superhero based. And I remember the graphic Fox 25 used. It was like the big stacking blocks, Fox 25, and then you would see Batman walk across the bottom. Then you would see the Tick like move underneath the F or something.
Yeah, I do. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought. I mean, as a kid, I would get so excited for that, and then it went to WB when they did the 3rd season of Batman, and it became more of a Warner Brothers show, which makes sense.
Yes. But there was the glory days of comic book media in the 90s was not live action. It was definitely animated, and it was great because even that Spider-Man show was really good too. I remembered really liking that show.
Yeah, that, and I love the X-Men stuff. Like, I learned more about X-Men from that than I did reading the comics.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think most people did. Yeah, and it still has.
Yeah. And it's such a high mark too for a lot of, even like Ricardo, our younger friends. That was like his introduction into superhero cartoons, I guess.
Yeah, maybe when we finish Batman, we'll get into the X-Men cartoon.
I would love that, actually. I was just thinking
that would be pretty fun.
Take a break and do like the best of X-Men, but we should just do the whole thing.
That would be pretty
fun.
Why
not do this for another 10 years?
Yeah, why not?
7, as you would say.
Yeah, we have to. I think we would owe it to people listening to the Badass podcast to make it through Batman Beyond first. But
yeah, definitely.
The Badass X-Men podcast. But yeah, I not remembering this one and not even knowing if I had seen it. Man, great episode.
Yeah, it's so different.
Yeah,
that's why I loved it. Like, I love nature stuff. Like, I would draw everything in this episode. I love seeing Batman. It was like the Fugitive in a way. Where they get off the train. They're both like not good at nature. It seems they're both stumbling over logs and rocks and fall. I mean, there's so many plummeting waterfalls and rivers in this. It's an amazing. It's like how Springfield in Simpsons happens to be right next to all these national parks that have different temperature zones. And
with I think it's there's a point in the Simpsons where they reach the area where the 5 states touch each other, and it's like California, Texas, Wyoming, and Massachusetts or something like that.
Alaska, yeah. Yeah, it's whatever you need in your plot.
Exactly.
It's like a 1 hour drive out of Gotham.
Yeah. If you go west in 20 minutes, you're in the desert. If you go east in 20 minutes, you're at the ocean. Yeah.
Right. So when I really loved the sequential storytelling, as there's like a good 5-10 minutes of just a pursuit.
Yeah.
There's eventually you get to the characters that are the misfits from the Freak Show, but there's a good sequence. There's no sound. There's no speaking. There's no music. It's just quietly Batman crawling over logs, and it's Croc, and then it's Batman, and they kind of fight fight a little bit, and then they separate, and then there's climbing over rocks. It's like, I don't know if I would have spent that much time on it, but I really do enjoy it.
Yeah, it's this episode. I was wondering. I couldn't find anything directly in my very minimal research that I did. I was wondering if there was any sort of change in production company or anything with the new seasons, because this doesn't look different really, but they definitely were pulling out the big guns to do the art on this one, because all of that nature stuff is so cool. It looks great, and yeah, it does look very different from what you're used to in this show. And I was wondering, I was watching it, and I was wondering if they were using the same method of the color on black.
Yes.
And it looks like
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to remind people that haven't watched season 1 of this podcast, they used to take black construction paper and then airbrush on top of it. So every single background in Gotham had an inherent black quality to underneath everything, which gave it this nice kind of chalky texture too, which you probably noticed. So for daylight scenes, you don't see a lot of daylight scenes in animated series, and this one takes place like 80% in the daylight. And it's funny, when they were starting to do the Superman cartoon after this, Superman doesn't take place in the darkness like Batman does. So they changed the way that they approached backgrounds for Superman. And I wish that they had not done that and they basically used the approach that they use on this episode for all of Superman. But I don't know how labor intensive that would have been. Maybe that was just a no-go.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it definitely gives the nature stuff a very unique look, because it is very bright, but it also gets very dark very quickly.
Yeah, man. I loved the when they get to the freak show stuff. I thought that it gave that a really nice this idea that Croc is an asshole. That's what this episode really is about.
Yes,
he's irredeemable. He's selfish. He's stupid, and they're not trying to. They make no bones about it. And at first, these misfits sort of embrace him because he lies to them and says that he is like them. And of course, by the end of the episode, they realize that he's just an asshole, and they side with Batman to bring this guy in. The one thing I would have done to make this even better would be when he lies to them, he tells them this story about how he was kept in a cage and mistreated and blah, blah, blah. So he doesn't tell them he was kept in prison because he's a criminal, but I almost wondered if like part of that story he was telling was true. And it would have been interesting to see them try like I know a flashback is so overdone, but I'd like to see this sad story of Croc in a way, like maybe some context as to why he's such an asshole. And seeing him in a cage as a freak, just like these people are, would have been the perfect place to get into it. And then you wouldn't have just had this guy who's sort of a one-dimensional, angry asshole character. Then he would have like some sad story that would connect him to these characters even more. Like I think this could have been potentially like a Heart of Ice level good if they had found a way to work in connect him to those circus freaks even more and show us exactly why it's so heartbreaking that he turned on them.
Yeah, I was thinking something similar. It's funny. I think we were thinking similar things, but we went in different directions on how to get there. Because I was thinking I wish it was a longer episode, because I would like to have seen more of Croc living with that group of people, because I'm not so much concerned with how he became to be an asshole, but I was really interested in in him possibly seeing that there is a different way of doing things, and that maybe living with these people could bring him some sort of peace, ultimately to reject that. And the thing that I found so interesting about this episode is when Batman shows up, because I was thinking, it's like, yeah, Croc is this irredeemable monster, and he's an asshole, and it's kind of sad the way that they play him. But the point where Batman shows up is a really crucial point for Croc in the story, because he is essentially at the pivot point of whether or not he's going to continue to be Killer Croc, the supervillain, or if he's going to give this a shot, because he's just taken the money out of the thing, and he's decided to put it back and to do something nice for these people. And I saw that as like, okay, it looks like he's starting to take a step in the different direction, but he's literally on the fence at this point. And that's when Batman shows up.
When he's robbing the safe and he's caught by the kid Seal, he puts it back. But did he have the intention of doing something good for them?
I don't know. That's the thing. He's right on that line of making a decision whether or not to be a bad guy or a good guy, and then Batman shows up and kind of makes the decision for him. Unfortunately,
you know what would have been good if you don't want to do the idea I suggested to beef this up a bit more is as he pulls the safe out and sees the money, he stops and he looks at all the posters of the freak show, and you play some like really moving music, and he has a moment where he realizes that this is wrong. He shouldn't be robbing them. He is one of them, and he feels their pain. And then Batman shows up, and he decides to become Croc again.
Right, yeah.
You give him that pause where he's like, I don't know, is this a good idea? Look at these posters. They were mistreated just like me. Oh, shit, the Kid Seal is coming. Oh, man, it's Batman.
Yeah.
Fuck, I have to beat him up, you know?
Yeah, I do like that. This reminded me of that episode with the Penguin, where the Penguin
with Veronica Vreeland.
Yeah, where he decides that he wants to go straight, but he's not actually putting a lot of effort in, so it's not going well, and he decides that everyone's out to get him. This is sort of like a different version of that, where Croc has no intention of going straight, but he sees that it could possibly be a way to go, but ultimately that's pulled away from him. And I find that really interesting character-wise.
Right. Another way I was thinking of playing this is this would be riskier. But you started off as an episode that is about these misfits, and you show like a sepia tone flashback of them leaving the circus and how they were teased and rejected. And then you show them finding a spot in the woods where they can build a new life. And then you show them, a year later or whatever. And then suddenly Killer Croc shows up and you're like, what the fuck? So you're introduced to he's just as startling as to the characters as they are to the viewer.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you see, so you do the whole episode from their point of view, basically. And it's kind of like a trial in a way, because they don't know who Batman is.
Sure.
And Batman looks like a freak just like them. I mean, they're all kind of on equal footing at this point,
Yeah, no, I like that a lot, actually. Taking Batman and Killer Croc out of their usual context and presenting them through the eyes of that group could be really interesting. Because, it then gives you Batman and Killer Croc free from any preconceived notions about, who's bad and who's good and X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, like, I'm definitely giving this episode a 4, but I think about what it could have been if it was a 5.
Same.
And how many different ways they could.
Yeah, definitely. I do think the animation for this one is 5 level though, because they do. Yeah. Like you can tell. It's so clear the episodes where they just put a little bit of back into it, and because they do these really interesting animated moves that they don't do in a lot of these other episodes. Like there's close-up animation on Killer Croc is unbelievable. Like when he's on the train and he like lunges towards Batman, and they do that sort of like 45-degree camera pan past his face, and you get that really great detail on the face moving by. It's a really, really anime kind of feeling shot.
Even a close-up of him looking at the camera, they had like, it was almost like Ninja Scroll style, where they had scratches on his nose, and they animated every scratch as he was walking, and they definitely put some extra oomph into this one.
Yeah, there's a great shot later when Batman pole vaults from the ground up onto a ledge, and it's like a low floor angle shot where you see the tip of the pole go into the floorboard, bend, and just launch Batman from the background into the foreground. It's really, really cool. It's not the kind of animation you'd see in an episode about like the Rat King or something,
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
What? Oh yeah, sorry. I was thinking of the Underdwellers episode. Where this guy, because that episode was really well animated, but the story was just.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I guess that's So I guess they do bring it out for weird episodes sometimes.
Yeah, weirdly, yeah.
Yeah.
This time they used it for good, though, so I was happy to see that.
Yeah, and it's just such a different feel of an episode. It's a fairly light on Batman, but you don't really feel it because the use of him is actually really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also love the staging for the fight scenes.
Oh, man, yeah.
You have this cabin in the woods that also has a water wheel on it And so, the water's been set up already by all these waterfalls and rivers from the first scene. So Batman is like underwater, and I love how Batman always beats people using the stuff that they like to use.
Mm-hmm.
So Croc is all about water this time. So Batman sort of beats him using the water. And he actually is able to grab the water wheel from underwater, pull himself up, and then Croc like chases after him, but he ends up in front of him, and then he gets crushed by the water wheel, pinning him against the top of the building, and he goes through, bam, they go back down into the water. Like, it's so crystal clear. And it's setting stuff up like that takes planning, and it's just something that people don't usually appreciate about these episodes.
Yeah, that water wheel fight was so cool. Like, that was...
Yeah. That's a play set. If they sold that as a kid, I would have wanted that.
Yeah. It's a setting for a fight that I feel like you only get every now and then from this show. They do a lot of really cool location fights in this show, but it's not all the time. Like, I'm thinking of the planetarium fight among the swinging planets and stuff is really cool. Every now and then they do this really great set piece, and I thought this was a really, really good one.
Yeah.
I was watching this one with my girlfriend, and she was very, very concerned about how much damage was being done to the Sideshow people's home, because they are so empathetic, and they have built this life for themselves, and then Batman shows up and basically destroys their house.
Yeah.
And when it was over, she said, I was kind of hoping they would have some sort of shot maybe where they showed they were rebuilding their home. But I mean, I think that's kind of sort of what you're talking about as far as like how you view these characters and through what lens. Because if you're viewing this altercation with Batman and Killer Croc through the eyes of these Sideshow people, they're gonna be pretty disappointed that this guy just showed up and destroyed their house.
Yeah, man. Oh man, what did you think of the resolution when their Croc's final words before they fly him away? They're putting him behind a face. They put a cage over his head so he can't break out again. Mm-hmm. He's basically like who's the character from that movie?
Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, thank you. And the kid is like, "Why, Croc? Why'd you do it?" And he's like, "Well, you said this was a place where you could be yourself, so I guess that's what I was doing, being myself." And then they fly him off, and you see Batman standing by a bush in the woods or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's...
And I thought, it's all right. I could have used a better bookend there.
Yeah, I guess it is kind of sad, though, because he's, it does... He is...
That would have been better, though. If they had set it up the way we were talking about earlier, that line would have had more oomph to it.
I think so, too. Yeah, I think you don't get enough with Croc and the Sideshow people to have that line really have the amount of pathos that they want it to.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't know what I would have done differently there.
Well, was Croc from? I forget how he was set up in the first time we saw him, but did they give him a backstory of being a wrestler, or was he a sideshow? Was he always like a freak show type of character?
He was.
Because it occurs to me it would be weird if both him and Bane had the same.
No, I don't think he's a wrestler. I don't really remember if they give him much of a backstory. If anyone wants to know, they're welcome to go back and listen to the first episode that we did. Oh no, you're right. I'm sorry, I just found it. He was a former pro wrestler who turned to crime. Bane in the cartoon is not portrayed as a wrestler.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he's just an assassin. I think the wrestling aspect to Bane has been placed on him retroactively. But he was never originally conceived as like a wrestler.
Yeah, I guess it was the Mucho Libre type of mask that made me think that.
Yeah, that seems to be where the jumping off point for that has come from. Where it's like, oh yeah, this guy, he wears a Lucha Libre mask, but he's not doesn't do any wrestling stuff. Maybe we should do some wrestling stuff with him.
He looks like a wrestler.
He does, yeah.
I don't know why they didn't do that.
Uses steroids I don't want to generalize. But.
Wait, when are you going to start your wrestling podcast, Clay?
Well, no, the world does not need another wrestling podcast from a guy like me.
You can talk about how you went to wrestling camp.
I did. It was so much fun. I wish I should have talked about that on the episode with when they actually had wrestling in the show.
I'm sure there'll be other opportunities.
Yeah, I hope so. But overall,
if you write some White Knight and you do a wrestling spin on a character, then we can talk about it then.
Oh, don't worry, I'm going to. Overall, I thought this was, it's too bad that they didn't have that little extra oomph because it's like right on the edge of being an all timer. I think this is definitely one that I would recommend to people. Yeah. Do you have something that you would draw? You said you'd draw the wilderness stuff.
God. Dude, I would draw everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I love drawing nature. I love drawing Batman falling from huge heights, like into a river. Mm-hmm. The train at the beginning and the freak show and like the posters that they have. Like this, there's not a single thing I would not want to draw in this, honestly.
There was a shot when Batman is on like a ledge that starts to crumble and he falls and he's got to shoot the grappling hook up among the falling rocks. There was a second where I was like, did they do this specifically to look like a Wile E. Coyote cartoon? Because there was the one shot in there where I was like, that feels like a Wile E. Coyote shot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially when you're in Warner Brothers Animation, that thought has to enter your mind.
Yeah, and
I feel like I've drawn this before.
Those guys worked on Tiny Toons, so I'm sure it wasn't. If that's the case, it was not unintentional.
Did you see the Acme sign in the bushes in that shot?
Well, it's the way that he ends up catching Croc. Obviously, he paints a tunnel onto the side of a mountain, and Croc just runs right into it.
He paints a picture of Batman on a rock, and Croc lunges at it and knocks himself out.
There you go. You know what? That would probably work, honestly, the way that they play Croc in this show sometimes.
He's such a fucking idiot.
Yeah. He's actually...
I don't know why they... Sorry.
I was just going to say, he's actually not dumb in this episode, really. He's... Almost Got Him seems to be the outlier so far as to how they treat the intelligence level of Killer Croc.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he's not Einstein, but he's not a total idiot.
Well, later on, they give him a relationship with Baby Doll.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
And he seems to be a bit more intelligent. You know, and honestly, and we'll talk about this for that episode, I don't know why they changed his design. Not only his design for season 4, we'll call it, but also the voice for him as well.
Oh, really?
Because I thought that this version of Croc, I think it's designed by Kevin Nolan. He has the Kevin Nolan slopey shoulders to him, and I thought the design was great, and I don't know why they needed to redo it to make him more of a green alligator.
Yeah, I don't. Some of those designs, and we'll talk about it when it happens in the show. But some of those designs I think are a downgrade, and I think Croc is probably one of them.
Yeah, for sure. I have a lot of opinions on those. I'm looking forward to getting to that season.
I think I'm right there with you. I think drawing Batman in the wilderness is just really unique and something you don't really see very often. I don't think I would want to draw, as cool as it is to watch, I don't think I would want to draw the water wheel fight just because figuring out how to stage that and then draw it seems like a lot of work.
Yeah. I would love to do that.
Oh, I know you would. Yes.
I like working with ellipses, and that is like the ultimate ellipse.
Yeah, I would be like, how many times can I shoot this straight on? So I just do a circle.
Do you enjoy drawing like the freak show circus posters at all? Is that your thing?
I've never actually done it, but I do enjoy that kind of style of stuff. I think those characters would be a lot of fun to play around with design wise. And I mean that Seal Boy, he was what a great character. He's just so cute and pathetic, and I mean that in a good way. And and a nice
anime look to his face.
Yeah, he's very much got like a Tiny Tim kind of feel to him. He's very easy to care about. Yeah, those are all great characters. I thought they were. There's not a lot to them. They don't really do much, but they serve their purpose very well.
Right. Yeah, I like how also Croc is he's friendly to all of them except for the guy that's bigger than him.
Yes, yeah.
I love the Siamese twins. Is that the correct way to refer to them?
It's the way they're referred to in the show. So
okay,
I think the politically correct way, I believe, is conjoined twins.
Okay, conjoined twins. They always had them cast against a black background, so you couldn't quite see where they were joined, if their arms were connected, or if their hips or ribs or whatever. Mm-hmm. I thought it seemed pretty evident they were trying not to focus too much on how they were connected.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the little kid was great, and I love the leader. I forget his name.
Richard.
Yep.
After
Oh yeah, the Shakespeare
Richard
guy.
III. Yeah. I do feel like they kind of maybe ran out of gas with him a little bit. The other guys are really interesting, and then it's like, oh, this guy is tiny and the hunchback, and he speaks in Shakespeare quotes. It's like, I don't know. I think he could have did something more interesting.
The Ninja Turtles, it's the same way. Leonardo is the most boring to me.
Mm-hmm.
He's like Superman of the Avenger or JLA. He's just like, yeah, I'm the leader. That's my skill.
Yeah, right.
I don't really have a horse in the game.
Yeah, Leonardo doesn't really have much of at least the way that I remember, doesn't have much of a character compared to the rest of them, does he?
He's boring, middle of the road, hold the team together type of guy. And Raphael is a badass. Michelangelo is awesome, and Donatello being smart. They all have their cool things. And Leonardo is like the suck up to Splinter, basically.
Yeah, not to go on a tangent about the Ninja Turtles, but the original Ninja Turtles movie came out 30 years ago this year.
Wow. Yeah.
And I still to this day am annoyed that the song Turtle Power, the rap that they do over the end credits, refer to Raphael as the leader of the Ninja Turtles, because everybody knows the leader of the Ninja Turtles is Leonardo. Everybody. It's like the first thing that you learn.
Well, Splinter is their leader, and Leonardo is like his number one.
Yeah, he's like the field commander. But if you were talking about the core four, Leonardo's the guy making the decisions. It's not Raphael.
But I do like the idea of Splinter being like a spiritual guide in some way, and maybe the Turtles are led by Leonardo.
Yeah. That movie, A, is way better than it has any right to be still. Like, it looks amazing. And B, gets really weird towards the end when they have that scene where they all meditate, and then Splinter shows up as a Force ghost.
Yeah.
It's a weird movie.
But as a kid, I found that really moving, especially when you saw them crying.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's a good. If you do a podcast for Patreon or whatever, definitely bring me in on that one.
Yeah, that would be fun. I'll have to throw that at Wes. That would be a fun one to do.
Yeah.
It's always fun listening to. They've been doing all those, like, because of the quarantine and whatnot. They've been doing a lot of those like cast reunion Zoom shows and stuff, and they did one for Ninja Turtles, the movie, and so they had the cast members as well as the guys who were inside the suits, and the Brian Henson and a couple of the Henson people who were talking about that stuff was really interesting. Because
did they have Corey Feldman there?
No, they did not have Corey Feldman, unfortunately.
I was like, is he still alive?
He is, yes.
Okay.
He's definitely living.
Too busy to be.
He's living on some plane of existence, that's for sure.
Maybe he bought an island like the Mad Hatter wanted to do.
Yeah, that's very possible. But hearing the Henson guys talk about the Ninja Turtle stuff is really interesting, because I feel like that's a movie that kind of gets forgotten that was a Henson production, or was so Henson used their stuff so heavily because it's not like Muppets and or puppets and stuff.
Yeah, it's funny because to me it's very clearly Henson, but I grew up with that movie and I love behind the scenes stuff. So to you and me, it's black and white. But I could see why anybody looking back would forget that. Yeah,
they one of the stunt guys told a story where he said when they were working up the costume, there was a very specific set of movements that he had to be able to do. That was like the check mark to see whether or not the costume worked, and he had to be able to do a front flip into a somersault and then jump through a manhole. And there was they were working on the costume, and they got to a certain point where this guy managed to do that, and they were like, all right, we got it, moving on.
Hey, someone help me out of here. They put the lid back on.
Yeah. Anyway, that's for a different
I would
show,
love to see the outtakes of that movie, or that the B-roll. I think that'd be hilarious.
Yeah, I the other trivia is I think they had to.
No, imagine like the first one is like, all right, knock, 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 Raphael, ready for you. Okay, he opens the door. Rip. Fuck. Bloop. Next one. All right, here we go. Where is it? Over by the manhole. And he turns his head. Rip. Whoops. Bloop.
Yeah.
And they get closer and closer to actually do. I could see that playing out.
I wonder if they have any of that footage. Like, have you seen the footage from Star Wars where they haven't dubbed in James Earl Jones's voice over Vader.
Yeah, I have.
So you instead of that booming voice, you just hear, "Bring me the passengers. I want them alive." And it's not quite as effective. I could see why people
How is that
watching
possible?
I could see why people seeing the dailies from that movie must have been like, "What the hell is going on?"
We're gonna lose our shirts on
Yes.
this. This is a terrible idea. Oh God, I'm so sorry, Alec McGinnis, that we wasted your time.
Oh, I'm sure I'm sure that's. I mean, I know for a fact he thought this, but that's definitely like you're on set with that thing going like, I was Lawrence of Arabia. What the fuck am I doing here? You want me to whack this giant robot with this stick? Okay, all right.
There's gonna be a light on it.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay,
Whatever,
is this
guy.
what kids want to see?
Sure. Anyway,
Did the Chewbacca have to talk at all before they dubbed him?
I think there is also footage of that too. So I think you
Right.
can find footage of scenes with Han and Chewie where Peter Mayhew is just saying stuff in English.
Yeah.
And so it is also weird seeing Chewbacca instead of the Chewbacca
Right.
noise. You're hearing him just this like English voice, kind English
You're hearing
voice.
like
saying
hey, over here, there's a couple seats by the bar.
Yeah.
Let's sit down. And like, that doesn't sound scary.
No.
I don't know. I think he's got a gun pointed at you. Oh, you killed him first. Okay, never mind. Yeah, version 1 of Chewbacca was gonna suck.
Yeah. At what point? Yeah, that would be funny if they were originally planning on using that voice, and then George Lucas was just like, maybe we just have him sound like a dog because none of this works.
What about Vader? Should he still be like Alfred and like, let's make him black?
Yeah.
Is LeVar Burton around now?
No.
Okay, well, I guess we'll have to use James Earl Jones.
Have you? Oh, speaking of that, again, was this Tangent City here? Have you seen the YouTube video where they overdub other James Earl Jones parts onto Darth Vader? And it's a lot more. How do I put this? A lot more aggressive dialogue from James Earl Jones. It's really, really funny.
They didn't use anything from The Sandlot? Oh, man.
They might have. I don't know where else it's all from, but it's worth a listen.
Yeah, that sounds like the kind of pandemic type of TV fill-in that we should be watching, honestly.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure the stocks on YouTube have gone through the roof since this stuff started.
Oh, insane, man! Honestly,
I didn't even know what Zoom was until this all started. So
yeah, buying stock in Zoom would have been good. Buying stock in Home Depot would have been good. We bought into Royal Caribbean, which has gone up. Carnival, which I don't think anyone should ever be on a cruise like that. But what are you gonna do? Yeah, stuff like that. Anyway, this is not about stock tips. It's about Batman.
Correct.
So you're saying that I think we're both in agreement that this is a 4.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it so badly wants to be a 5, but it just doesn't quite get there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to do it, I think, for Worry Men and Sideshow. Next time, let me look it up real quick here. Next time we've got A Bullet for Bullock and Trial.
Ooh,
is Trial?
Nice. Oh, man. Yeah.
Oh, Trial's a cool one. I remember that one being pretty good.
Trial is where I watched it after I'd done White Knight, and I was like, oh, my God, I've lifted subconsciously so many things from this episode. Like, Jesus Christ, people are accusing me of fan fiction Batman, and like it's all in this one episode. yeah.
Well, we'll put you on trial next time as we break down A Bullet for Bullock and Trial. And if you guys like the show, if you want to give us a rating or review on iTunes, that would be great. You can find us if you want to talk to us, shoot us a question or something. We're on Twitter at BATTASS Podcast, BATTASS Podcast, or you can shoot us an email, thebattasspodcast@gmail.com. Thank you guys. Thanks for coming on, Sean, as always.
Yep. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Yep. Take care.